In this video, we're going to look at risk management, and this video is made to accompany the other video that's on incident reporting. So, for risk management, this is an important part of everybody's practice, but recording how we do risk management is part of accreditation because we need to build a risk register to document our safety and quality actions. So in SmartDentist, click on resources and we scroll down to the area that's on safety and quality, and you will see incident reporting, audits, risk register, and other registers for safety and quality. So what we're looking at in this video is the risk register. But to help explain this to staff and practitioners, we've got a staff guide to incident reporting and risk management. And I've opened this up before. And at the top, we discuss our intuitive actions that we carry out every day in incident management and for accreditation. And to help us look at trends, we document these into the incident register. From the incident register, we can look at risk management. Risk management is looking at identifying the risks and then going through a process of deciding what risks should be managed in what way to actually minimize the impact of them or eliminate them from our practice. So the starting point with risk management can be the incident report. So we put in an incident report and we look at this. Who is at risk? What were the consequences? What can we actually do? Let's think laterally about reducing the possibility of that. Now let's make the changes and see whether we've reduced the risk. And it's a constant process of quality improvement. So all risks should be considered as risks to be managed. Let's go back to SmartDentist. So we have a risk register where we can record those risks. But if we're going to look at incidents, perhaps we should start off at the incident register and look at the incidents we've got, and you will see for each incident we have a direct link that pulls that incident back into the risk register so we can really properly consider that. Let's go, this is the one, patient has tripped over my foot control. Let's go and have a look. When we go to add this into the risk register, the information about the risk is actually all being embedded in the one place here. And it's just there for your convenience, and you need to move that around to make it applicable to what's being asked in the risk register. So that's how incidents are linked in and managed in the risk register. Let's go and have another look at something else. We've made it easier in SmartDentist because this process can be quite complex when you first consider it. And we've got example risks. So you might like to flip through the risks that we've discussed, which are pretty generic to most practices, and decide which ones you really like to consider for your practice. So perhaps let's look at the first one, staff not wearing eye protection. What would be the harm caused? Well, you could get eye injury, the person affected is the staff, and the things that we need to discuss with our staff is how often it happens or where it occurs. That's a pretty good risk. Let's add it to our risk register. It really applies to our practice. So in the risk register, we're asked to define who that risk is about, and in this place it's staff, and that's filled in automatically for you, but you can change it to someone else. Now if this is happening around the practice, it's quite possible, and the consequences are fairly moderate, although you might put extreme or major, depending on what you're handling in the practice. And perhaps this is happening in one location. So maybe it's in Glenda's surgery that it's most common. The staff don't remember to wear eye protection. So the questions that we'd like to ask with this risk, because we're going to actually email this risk to the other staff, because safety is a whole practice occupation. So perhaps we'd like to ask staff why staff might not be wearing safety glasses. So what are the hindrances to doing the right thing? So the next question is, what harm can be caused? And of course you can get eye injury or infection. So what are the current controls? New staff induction includes personal protective equipment. So what other controls could be introduced? Well, what about safety glasses in each room, or safety glasses for each staff member, labelled so we know whose belongs to who. So if we do those things, what's the likelihood of safety glasses not being worn being an issue? Perhaps that would be rare. Perhaps we'll include education in there. Education, training, auditing, that's a lot of things. So it's now become rare, but the consequences still remain moderate. And perhaps there's other things that we need to do to remove the risk. And perhaps we'll put something up on the staff notice board. And should we allocate this risk to one of our existing policies? Yes, of course. Let's allocate it to the personal protective equipment policy, and the national standard this relates to is the governance one, and this has come automatically from the example that the impact of safety and quality is considered in business making decisions, and that might not be the one that you think it's applicable to. The topic is going to be occupational health and safety, responsible staff member, or I can be the responsible staff member, or we could pick someone else the responsible staff member. We have to discuss it with them, and perhaps we'll review that in a year's time. And oh, we review it now, and it's due again in a year's time, or perhaps the start of next year when we've got a change. And let's make this an active report because we're keeping track of it, and we save it, and it becomes part of our risk register. Now, part of the important things to do with risks, not only to document them, but make sure that staff are involved in actually addressing those risks, because safety is a whole person thing. So we can communicate the risk. These are the questions we ask, and if we press this little button, we go to our communication form, and we can see all the staff members are automatically ticked, and maybe some of those that particular risk won't be applicable to. We can alter the message, but it says here the automated message is, because we're committed to safety, a safe work environment, we're reviewing the risks in the organisation. Please read this risk and give comments. So the risk is documented in the content of the email. Staff not wearing eye protection. The questions we'd like you to consider are included there. The controls that we're doing is considered there, and the risk rating. So we're keeping the staff totally informed about what's happened, because this risk is really important to everyone in the practice. And if we tick this button, it would email everybody, but we're going to just leave this linked to the communication. We won't email it for the moment. And you can see here we go back to the risk register, and we've got a list of the documents that show how we've communicated this to staff members, the policy that it's involved with, the action. So that's our risk register, and that's what we print off to supply for practice accreditation. Risk register and is our risk management documentation, and it's linked to our incidents. The other thing with the risk register is the analysis of determining what should be done in the risk comes from NH and MRC, and you can play with this and see how a risk is rated. So, SmartDentist helps you with managing incidents and risks.